What is up, Karatics? Welcome to travel capability testing for the new Bravado Youga Classic 4x4. This off-road test is an update to my off-road capability testing, a series where I tested the majority off-road capable vehicles in GTA Online. I'll leave a link to a playlist down below in the pinned comment where you will find all the other vehicles I have done already so that you can compare. Before we start, if you have any questions as to how each obstacle is scored in full detail, please refer to the tutorial video which is linked in the pinned comment. Also, if you're asking if I've tested a certain vehicle so far, make sure you check the pinned comment playlist as well with the spreadsheets, as the vehicle will most likely have already been tested there. Also to note, vehicles like the Wastelander, the dump truck, things like that, cannot be used in races. This test track is technically a race, so the game will not let me choose it. So keep that in mind before asking about a certain vehicle. Also remember that the most updated spreadsheet with all the off-road capability scores for vehicles I have tested so far will be linked in the pinned comment as well. The following points for each obstacle will be out of 10 possible points. The Youga Classic 4x4 is fully customized with bumper and exhaust options that provide the most ground clearance. It also has stock suspension. Also keep in mind that this is in the vans class, not in the off-roads class. And ironically, it is two-wheel drive, as you can see here. So even though it literally has 4x4 in its name and a front differential, it's sadly only rear-wheel drive. I honestly think this is just a mistake Rockstar made, a possible overlook when they were making the update, so maybe they might fix it in the future. Usually things like this they fixed in the next major update, which we probably won't see till around December, so maybe they'll eventually fix it. If they do, I will retest it. But anyway, starting off with the incline test from a flat surface, the Youga barely has any power/torque, really making it suffer to go up this obstacle. It gets a 3 out of 10. In stage 2 of this test, where it started at an angled position, it struggles even more and just barely makes it to red block number 3, which gives it a 3 out of 10. So we take both those scores, they were both 3, we get an average of 3 for the incline test, which is below average. Again, this vehicle really does lack in terms of power. Next, we have the dirt incline test. So again, even though it's currently two-wheel drive, it still tackles this incline pretty well and makes it to the top, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Dirt braking is not so great for the Youga. It does lack in terms of braking in combination with its weight. It goes past the last red block up to marker number 2, which gives it an 8 out of 10. Rock crawling for the Youga is actually pretty good. Despite it being two-wheel drive, throughout 3 obstacles, it bottoms out a total of 4 times due to its long wheelbase, which gives it a 6 out of 10. However, in stage 2 of this test, which is subjectively scored, it has no hesitation over all 3 obstacles, which is pretty impressive. However, I do feel that it's not quite on par with the top rock crawling vehicles such as the Sand King or the Riata, so I'm going to have to give it a 9 out of 10. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 7.5 out of 10 for the rock crawling test, which is a good score. If the wheelbase was a little bit shorter, I think it would do a lot better, but all in all, it's pretty good. Powertrain is pretty decent, as we really only see wheel spin from the driver's side rear wheel. Again, it's rear wheel drive, so not much of a surprise there, but at least both of them don't spin, only one is. However, due to that long wheelbase, the back wheel does start to hang in the air, which really does affect it. I'm going to have to knock a couple points for that, so it's going to get a 7 out of 10 for this test. Next up, we have bumper clearance. It surprisingly does not scrape at all, which is very impressive. It gives it a 10 out of 10 for this test. Suspension travel was sadly below average. According to the markers, it gets a 4 out of 10. High-speed stability is pretty decent, similar to what we see for the Merryweather Mesa, although the Rumple Custom, which is another off-road van, does do a little better in this test. It gets a 7 out of 10. Next up, we have deep water testing. This is where the Youga does a lot better. In stage 1, it makes it to the end, which gives it a 10 out of 10. In stage 2, which is the deeper side, it gets really close to making it to the end, but unfortunately dies at red block number 9, which gives it a 9 out of 10. So if we take both those scores, we get an average of 9.5 for the deep water test, which is a very good score. And finally, we have the dirt acceleration test. This path is exactly a quarter mile long. Using the handbrake launch, it gets a very, very slow 17-second quarter mile. One of the slowest vehicles I've tested here. It gets a 3 out of 10. Added all together, the off-road capability score is 69 out of 100. For being an off-road van, it's pretty good. However, we do have the Rumpo Custom and the Vans class as well we have to consider. It does a little better in most of the obstacles. The Rumpo Custom is definitely a better all-rounder and is a lot cheaper. I will say, however, that both of these are very top-heavy and like to go on 2 wheels and flip a lot when they're off-roading, so that's something to consider if you're looking for an off-road van. Now, if we compare the Youga Classic 4x4 to all the vehicles I have tested so far from all the different classes, that places it here in 25th place, which is not that great, but for being a van, it definitely performs pretty well. Although again, I will say that the Rumpo Custom in 21st place, that even beats out the Meriwether Mesa for off-roading, is very impressive. All in all, Youga Classic 4x4 is really not that great of a choice for off-roading, mainly due to its lack of power. It costs about $1.5 million with upgrades, which is very expensive for an off-road van that is severely underpowered and is currently broken. So, is it worth buying? I personally believe it's not worth the money, as the Rumpo Custom is a lot better and only costs about $200,000 with upgrades. Now, of course, in general, there are much better options for off-roading out there, but again, the point of the Youga Classic 4x4 is the crazy level of customization while also being decent at off-roading. But is that really worth $1.5 million with upgrades to most people? I'd say probably not, but for the special few that want the quirkiest van in the game that happens to be decent at off-roading, the Youga Classic 4x4 definitely solves that interesting need for those people. Well, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, if I could see the other videos on the other vehicles I've tested so far and how the Youga Classic 4x4 compares to all the other ones, I'll leave a link to a playlist down below in the pinned comment, as well as a spreadsheet which will contain the most updated breakdown and scores for all vehicles in one place. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.